Hello, this is Lori Michelle from Running on Love, the charity, and Running on Love with God, the weekly program. This is part 2 of the program that I just hosted about Trump's White House. Is it protection or a political nightmare? And I'm doing part 2 because it's such a provocative subject matter that when we had our radio program just a few moments ago, I had Bob, hello Bob, from Chicago area. It was such a provocative conversation that we had so much more to say. So I'm doing part 2 on Uvu, recording this, and then we'll upload this to YouTube and Facebook. It's a very important topic. It's a very heated topic, and there's a lot of controversy about the travel ban and immigration bans, and people are up in arms and calling Donald Trump a Nazi, and he's racist, and he's a homophobe, and he's a whatever-a-phobe. There were names being thrown around at the last election that I had never even heard of. And so the last program, I'll just summarize, was that Donald Trump, according to Hashem God and his wisdom, is doing things to protect the American public, and that he's not any of those things. He's not a racist or anti-Semite or all of these terrible accusations that are being heaved upon him. And so we can have a further discussion, because at the end of the last program, Bob, you asked about Muslims, and is this a Muslim problem? Is this, people are accusing Donald Trump of being anti-Muslim. What is at the core of the problem around the world, and what is the potential solution? So I'll let you start by asking a question.
The question that I started with, and it has evolved. I'll just go with the evolved version of it, and because I like you care about the people of the world, and we would all love to see peace everywhere. Yes. That's the objective. That's the attractive thing about your message, and what gained my support of Donald Trump was listening to him and his constant references to, I want everybody to do well and be safe. He doesn't say, he doesn't pick. He's not an identity politician at all. And I think identity politics, it's a buzzword, but it's one of those things that I feel is dangerous. Because it pits the philosophy, the strategy, the tactic is to pit everybody against everybody else. We don't want to see that. Right. So we're talking about bringing people together. So my question is, why isn't there more of an emphasis on creating peace in the Mideast so that we don't have to chase all of those people who want to live in peace in the Mideast out of their countries? Why is, how do we get the world to take responsibility for cleaning up this mess?
Okay. Perfect segue to giving you and the listeners some insight to prophecy and wisdom that has been given to me by Hashem God. I'm not going to reveal all of the things that he shares with me because it might be misconstrued, and I have to be careful to give my information out in spoonfuls. In fact, in the mornings, he gives me visions, and he keeps showing me spoonfuls. He shows me a baby bottle. He tells me all the time, little at a time. So I'll paint a broad brush of what peace could potentially look like. What he tells me is that we are all family. We are one huge dysfunctional family. And at the core of what's going to heal us is that we come together and set aside our ideologies and our religions, which, by the way, he says is good. He says religion is good. So I'm not asking anybody to listen to my version of religion or your version of religion. What he says is going to help us come together and have peace is a recognition of one God, and that we're all people and children and creations of one Creator, and talk about and learn what combines us instead of what divides us. So, in other words, when I'm speaking and teaching on these weekly programs, he advises me and instructs me to talk about where we have common ground, and builds on the common ground, builds on the fact that we're all people and we all struggle with the dilemma of good versus evil. We struggle with our weight, we struggle in our marriages, we struggle with our children. Talk about the things that combine us, where we have common ground. And in the area of God and religion, we have more common ground than most people realize. Islam is very, very similar to Judaism, which is very, very similar to Christianity, the king of Christianity was a Jewish rabbi. So I'm not saying anything that's not true. I'm saying that we need to talk about what we agree on. And then it becomes easier to explain where we've gone awry. And that's how peace is going to be achieved, is to come together and stop fighting about who has it right.
And possibly we may be seeing that in a way that we're not quite aware of yet, in that I think everybody realizes that there's people that need to be taken care of. Or many leaders around the country do. There's also, there's people who don't, I suppose. But so the question is, how do you do it? And I saw a great presentation where a guy used gumballs to indicate the millions of people in the world, and the millions of people that are in the third world are in these troubled areas. There are so many people in those areas, according to this presentation, that it's impossible to move them all to a better country. Which led me to ask my question what can we do?
Bob, excuse me, are you referring to the refugee problem, like in Syria? Who are you referring to moving?
I'm referring to the number of people in what we would consider in the United States who are living in substandard situations around the world, including those people who are the victims of war.
Right.
But it's not just in Syria, in the Sudan, in Nigeria. It's pretty much throughout the third world. There are people in crisis of one kind or another, whether it's water supply, whether it's food, whether it's wars.
Right.
Those people, in this guy's presentation, he said, we need to quit taking all of their smartest and brightest people from all these countries, bringing them to our country and to Europe, and leaving these countries without leadership.
Right.
That was an interesting perspective.
So your question is, instead of having a problem where they all want to immigrate into other countries, how do we make it sustainable and a good life for them where they are? So the answer is...
How do we make their home a home?
Right. The answer is, you're going to, people listening to this are going to call me Pollyanna, but it's God and love, running on love. Now, this is sounding like a self-serving plug for the charity Running on Love, but it is not. The charity Running on Love came through me from him. I didn't even know what I was creating. But the charity is a platform to bring all the people of the world together under one umbrella to have fun giving to charity, so that charity no longer becomes, let's give so that they don't starve in Africa. Let's give so that wounded warriors are protected. Let's give to solve a problem. Instead, we're focusing on giving because giving feels great. So there's
Good.
The program of Running on Love is don't give because you're in pain, give because you love. Honor someone you love with an act of charity, and there's a whole business plan behind this charity where we would host festivals where people would come together, Muslim people, Christian people, black people, white people, yellow people, all the people of the world would come together, set aside their differences, and give and have fun, blow bubbles for love, a festival, and donate just for love, Bob. I know it sounds Pollyanna, but I have visions and I have a business plan, and Hashem God has shown me that these events will occur, that you will come and you'll donate $10 to sing for love, meaning you'll donate $10 and get up and sing karaoke and donate your song to your loved one. Have fun giving. And instead of charities vying for your dollars, give me your money, oh, they're starving in Africa, oh, the children have cancer. It's all about pain and blame and guilt. Instead, we're coming together, we're learning what God wants, and we're giving because that's what we're here to do. And instead of holding on to our money, right now people are not giving enough. They're not giving 10%. The statistics are startling that the wealthy are giving maybe 3% of their income to charity. If everybody had a change of perspective on giving, and we were on fire to give, if we were in love with the idea of giving, that giving wasn't a painful experience, the people in the Sudan could be supported. The people in Gaza could be supported. There would be money flowing in because we would give because we desire to give, not because we have to give, not because someone's beating you over the head saying you're selfish, you must give because they're hurting over there. Do you understand? That's the model.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a model. You have a model and a plan that make a lot of sense, and I'm a big believer in creating hubs of thought, and I think that's what you want to do. You want to bring people together that have the common good of all mankind.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, I've not done the perfect job, but I have tried to use the precepts that you talk about, and talking to people as if they are part of the family, even though they disagree. And there are a lot of families right now within families, there is a lot of disagreement about what we're talking about right now.
It's terrible.
So
people are not even talking to each other.
I know. People need to get back to what you're talking about, I believe, is the basics of why number one, how many species of human are there? One.
Right.
One. We are all humans. We've gone through years and years of living in different countries and getting certain shapes and things like that as sort of characteristic of what country we came from. But we're all humans. And as a biologist, if an organism can breed with another, they're the same species. And that can happen across the world. The mystery is why we don't all want to get together and love one another and enjoy one another. That's the mystery.
I did a video, a Q&A about, Bob, I just did a Q&A last week about why is there so much evil, and Hashem God answered the question, one word, ego, which means edging God out. I did a whole video just a few days ago, and what this means is that everybody feels separate from God, so they gravitate towards self-centeredness, or they need to identify with a part of a group instead of the collective whole. But make no mistake, there's a question that you haven't asked, and that is, there are people who are what they call globalists, like Barack Obama, who want one economy, one nation, and it sounds euphoric, and it does wonderful, and, some sort of panacea. But I can tell you that Hashem God is not, the globe is his, but he's not a globalist. Sorry. That's okay. He is not a globalist. Yeah. He is not he says globalism is equivalent to communism. And he is not for communism. If you had to ask Hashem which form of government, well, truly, it's supposed to be a theocracy, and governance comes from his laws, but he is not, he does not espouse communism. Truly, if you had to pick an economic system that Hashem God would condone, it would be capitalism, believe it or not. Hashem is a capitalist.
Well,
why? Because we work, we are rewarded. It's a reward, benefit and reward system, or punishment, supply demand kind of thing. You do good, you get benefit.
This is an observation. First of all, let me get back to what you just said. You did a great job of describing the problem with identity politics. Because, as you said, we're not one simple group that has our own special interests in mind.
Yes.
And that's what the identity politics does is, well, I'm the old white-haired gentlemen, and our white-haired gentleman group, we don't get enough something. And we are going to campaign for getting that something in spite of the fact that it causes unfairness for somebody else. It's, that's identity politics. And that's what we really want to try and avoid is we want people to feel we're all in this together. We have our countries can deal with one another. We can be peaceful, we can be helpful, and we can lift the whole boat by loving, being responsible, following God's laws, and respecting one another.
Right. The breakdown.
But
the breakdown that
Abraham couldn't even keep.
Yes. The breakdown that
I was going to say Abraham couldn't get his sons to get along.
The breakdown that we're seeing around the world is that it's truly meant to be a world that is run by God's laws, not man's laws. And when we have a breakdown where mankind doesn't remember or recognize that God is omnipotent and they have their own ideologies, and then you have a further breakdown that within mankind you have different groups who have different ideas about what God is and what he desires, we have a mess. We literally have a mess.
Yes.
But what Hashem guides me is I'm Jewish, and Jesus, which Hashem calls him Yeshua, was Jewish, and the Torah is is a book of Hashem. It's Hashem's book. The Torah is believed in by the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims. So what he's saying is, and his laws are within the Torah, and what we have to do is go back to what's in common. We need to combine ourselves to our common ground. Where do we agree? And then it becomes easier as we stumble and hit a wall. Well, now We're friends. Well, we agree on that. I'm not a good negotiator because I always just cave in and give people what they want. But when you're negotiating, the problem with Israel and the Palestinians is everybody wants what they want. Nobody's talking about where we have common ground. And the first thing that I heard when Netanyahu just visited the United States was that there's a potential one-state solution on the board. I never heard that before, that it's a one-state or two-state solution. And I think it's too early to talk about any of those solutions right now. We're at each other's throats. So when you're talking about how to find peace, if we're hating each other and we're not on the same side or the same thinking in any aspect of what we're talking about, how do both sides come together when there's hatred, right? So here's my plug again, is we need to learn how to love. We need to learn how to connect to each other. You asked before in the previous program, or maybe Anna Marie did, what happens if someone's firing at you and, about the immigration ban and you're a homophobe and they're calling you names, right? Well, to respond with names is not the way to respond. To respond with acknowledging their anger. I understand you're angry. I can see your point of view. But this is why this immigration ban is going to keep us safer. It's not meant to offend or harm any person, but we have a real problem here. We need someone to explain these things and approach it with compassion. And like Whoopi Goldberg, I brought her up in the last program. She's a decent, good person, but I disagree with her political ideology. And so, but I wouldn't fire at her and say, you're a Nazi liberal. They're not part of the problem. She's calling names. I'm calling names. I went to someone's home the other night and we started talking about something, and he said, and I was talking about God, and he said, well, then you agree with Hezbollah. I said, what? And I was talking about, I don't want to talk about what we were talking about, but something about God and what God would think. And I said, well, it's clear that that's a sin against God. And he said, no, it's not. I said, yes, it is. It's very clear that that's a sin. He said, well, then you agree with Hezbollah. You're just like them. I said, well, if they agree with this, thing that I was talking about, that I won't say, is a sin, then yes, I agree with Hezbollah. So see, I even have common ground with Hezbollah. See, it's possible.
I think that's one of the biggest things that confuses almost everybody, because one-on-one, I'm good with just about anybody.
Right.
And you because I treat people with respect, I get treated with respect. So that's that microcosm. How do you get that to be the broad, the people that we talk to, have them say, well, I disagree with you, but I understand. I think that's going to be something that I just put in my mind every time I'm having a conversation with someone. If I disagree with them, I understand.
It's compassion.
That's good.
We all want to be heard and understood. Right? We all do.
Yeah, let's look for that common ground. And Lori, if there is nothing else that comes out of this 20 or 30 minutes we've spent,
yes,
that's a nugget.
Right.
That's a nugget.
I'm not saying that you should be a namby-pamby if someone calls you a derisive name. to take it on the chin. No, I'm not saying that. Believe me, I'm no namby-pamby, but I understand when someone is saying they're very upset and they're calling Donald Trump names. They're not calling me a name, but I understand where it's coming from. They're good people. They're incensed, but they need to know more. I happen to know more because I'm guided by the one. People don't necessarily believe me right now, or they think maybe she does. They think everybody speaks to him, but I literally hear him in English. And I know he knows what's inside your heart, and he knows your intentions. And even though Donald Trump doesn't speak pearls of wisdom all the time, and things come out of his mouth that make people,
their head explodes.
What I'm told is he's risking his money, his life, his family, everything for this. He didn't need any of this. And so
that's the thing that people don't get.
Yeah, it begs the question, why is Donald Trump doing this? He didn't need any of it. People will say, well, he's a narcissist. Well, show me someone who ran for president who's not a narcissist. Give me a break.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's just not going to go anywhere. But you have to ask yourself, he was multi-billionaire, powerful, television star, beautiful wife, beautiful family. What does he need it for? Why is he risking his life? And the answer is he sees us going, excuse the expression, to hell in a handbasket.
Down the drain.
Down the drain.
Yeah.
Rotor is the name. That's what he sees. And no one is seeing that. And even his worst critics should pause and say, wow, a non-politician just won the presidency. I think it showed a lot of chutzpah, a lot of courage, and also it's a loud wake-up call for the American public. They were not happy. He didn't win because he just said, I want to buy the presidency. People voted for him. So we're on a collision course with, I don't know, with what?
Well, let's think about it. People voted for Donald Trump because he heard them. He heard them in a unique way, I believe. And I think that's what's kind of the shock to a lot of the people on the coastal media and in Washington, D.C., is because they felt they had it all. They had the system down. They could just roll out candidates.
Right.
So basically be the same, and they're going to take care of the government bureaucracy. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So his ability to look and listen is why I say to people who are critical, look and listen.
Well,
really think about
what the issue is. Yeah, we're at the end of 30 minutes. But on that note,
sorry.
Yeah, no, because if the programs go too long, no one will watch. So
I know. Nobody's going to watch me anyway. So that's
to begin with. But on that note, I have to say, it's obvious you're a Trump supporter and a Trump fan, and I voted for him. But this is not a pro-Trump organization or program.
No, it's not the discussion.
Anything. It's a discussion trying to look at this in a way that is not divisive. He is the president. And all the protests and all the name calling, and now they're saying he's mentally ill and deranged and unstable.
Yeah, I am too.
It's not helpful. He has a tough job. We're in a very dangerous world, and we need to combine ourselves. And we have to be asking questions, what are we for, instead of what are we against? We're all for protection and safety. We have differences of opinion on how to get there. And so if we're constantly throwing names and, Molotov cocktails at each other, we're not going to get anywhere. And so we have to be calmer. Well, that's one of the lessons from Hashem that I've learned is there could be chaos going on. And he's very even. He never gets angry. Well, he says he's angry, but you will never know it. He doesn't make decisions out of anger, and he never speaks derisively. He's constructive, and he's thoughtful, and he's all-knowing and all-loving, and we need to emulate him. So when you're in a conversation with one of these liberals who are firing off nastiness, be compassionate, because the eminence, where it's emanating from, is from their godly souls saying, I want to be safe, and Donald Trump makes me feel unsafe. So
that is an excellent point, and I think also your point about people need to find the common ground, because just think how much better we would all feel right now if we knew that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Donald Trump were sitting down together to try and figure out how we could all work together to make this country and this world a better place. They have the power. They have the power to do that. They're refusing to do it.
Well, I'm going to end this program with a vision that Hashem God gave me. And I hope it comes true, Bob. He showed me.
I do too.
He showed me Donald Trump wearing a Running on Love running hat, running on love, holding hands with Hillary Clinton. Wow. I believe it.
But I think Donald would do that before Hillary would.
I think she would. I think, you know what I think? I think Hillary Clinton loves America, and I think Donald Trump loves America. They may not like each other, but that's where we have to come. We have to set it all aside and hold hands and say, this is for America. This is for the world. This is for my children. That's where we have to go with this. And work for peace. Listen, learn, and work for peace.
Same to you.
Peace on earth in our time. God bless you, Bob. Thank you. Great
God
show.
bless you too, Lori.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.